And good morning, Dan.
Good morning, Styrling.
And good morning, everyone. All of you joining us on Facebook, our Facebook group live. I'm here in the USA with Dan, Travis, and the United Kingdom. Dan, why don't you get us started today on the topic?
Yeah, the topic of the day. We are going to be looking today at trends in match data. Now, that is a lot more interesting than it sounds. Okay, I promise you, you'll be going, "Oh my God, I'm glad I listened to trends in match data with the art of winning today." So, what we're going to be looking at are two trends that you will, or we've spotted that jump out at us when we're looking at the match data that we've done. So when we filled in our match data sheet, there we are, or we're using the app, we'll look at certain pattern is another word we could use, but we decided to use trends because trends carry over into other matches, and you can start to see these trends building up. And what we decided to do is pick out two trends that we found that do have an impact on the match, but also, I think just as importantly, something that you can then take from the match data that you've been doing on to the practice court. Right? So we're going to be giving you, or Styrling will at least, be giving you some art of winning games to use on the practice court to help with this. So I think just before we start, I want to say that, look, this is not complicated. Match data analysis isn't complicated. It's challenging. It's really interesting, but you do not need a PhD in data analytics or data science to do what we're doing. I think it's best, the point's best made when we say, look, if you were to watch this today and you were to look at a match and do a basic match chart, it doesn't even have to be all the metrics. You would be able to do this, and you will be able to understand exactly what Styrling and I are talking about. So in other words, if you start to apply this immediately into your coaching, but also in the way you watch tennis and you're looking at players, or if you're a player, you start to apply this, it doesn't take long. You can do it now. You can do it after watching this particular video. So I wanted to emphasize that. And if you do, if you subscribe to the Art of Winning, which is a very inexpensive and quick and brilliant thing to do, artofwinningtennis.com, then you've got access to this. And we're going to take you through it. We will literally say, look, this is what we do with data analytics. And again, it doesn't take long. So can we start with the first question, Styrling?
Let's jump right into this. Yep.
What exactly is a trend in the art of winning match data?
Well, if we look at trends, like the typical definition of a trend is a general direction in which something is developing or changing. So I would say that the way in which we map data here at the Art of Winning is changing the way we interpret the where, the why, and the when of points being won or lost during a match.
Okay. So that makes sense. So a trend would continue over a series of matches. Is that right?
Yeah, we're finding out how and why players are winning and losing over a series of matches and where the majority of the errors are occurring.
Okay. So why would you say that understanding trends in art of winning data analytics is so important?
Well, the different match data analytics that we're using causes us as players and coaches to revisit the practice court. And we're revisiting the practice court with a mindset to reverse engineer it. Okay. So for many decades, our practice sessions typically begin with practicing those situations that happen in a match very rarely. For example, extended rallies or a lot of rally practice. And we tend to avoid practicing the situations of the point that happen more often. For example, the serve and the S1, the first shot after the serve, and the return in R1.
Okay. So look, to me, two trends that I've been working closely on are what we call the momentum point conversion rate and forehand on the second shot, be that the S1 or the R1. So can you tell me, or us, sorry, because I've already got a good idea. Can you tell us a little bit about momentum conversion rate and what the trends are?
Okay, so this can get a little bit confusing, so I just want to take it slow here. Momentum points is when you win 2 points in a row. You get a momentum point. If you win 3 points in a row, you get a conversion point. Now, we talk about conversion rates. We're talking about when you have an opportunity to score a momentum point or a conversion point. So the momentum conversion rate is when you've won a point and now you have an opportunity to win 2 points in a row or convert that situation of 2 points in a row into a momentum point. Okay. So I just wanted to clarify that. So one of the most important trends with regards to scoring momentum points is and playing a forehand. Sorry, I'm getting ahead. No, I'm not ahead. I'm ahead. Good. So one of the most important points about scoring momentum points is playing a forehand on your second shot as a player. Is you're more likely to score and obtain a momentum point if you play a forehand after your serve or after your return. In fact, the probability of success increases tremendously, and I would even say it's about 75% more likely to win a momentum point if you play an S1 or R1 forehand.
Okay. What do you tend to see, Styrling, when we compare the momentum conversion rate? So that's the number of individual points that players win that they convert into two. So that being the rate as you've defined, ones into twos. What happens when you compare the momentum point conversion rate between the two players in that match?
Okay, so the player that converts or obtains more momentum points, that is winning 2 points in a row, is capturing the momentum of the match. For example, if you and I play, say, 2 games, okay, I serve a game, you serve a game, and you have, Dan, 3 chances to score a momentum point.
Yeah.
And you only convert one of those. Your momentum conversion rate is 33%. And in those same 2 games, I have a chance to win a momentum point twice, 2 times, and I convert both of them, then my momentum conversion rate is 100%. So what this means is going into the 3rd game of the set, I have the momentum of the match so far. And even if we trade games, right? But if I know this, I'm going to be more aware of how to successfully navigate the pressure that comes with the 3rd game. So I will make better decisions instead of just feeling like the match is just simply tied 1-1. And that's the biggest difference we're seeing, is understanding who has the momentum of the match based on who is converting more 1 in a row to 2 in a row. So who's scoring more momentum points and who's getting a lot of chances as well.
Yeah. I think that's a really good way of putting it. Thanks, Styrling. I think I see momentum points are the opportunities to make conversions for the threes in a row. The more you have, the more likely, but not necessarily, are you going to convert, but the more likely, the probability becomes, it's higher. You're giving yourself a better chance. And you will see the more conversion points, the more momentum points available, the more conversions tend, and that's what we're talking about here, trends tend to be converted. So I just want to just add something here. What would you say then is a really good game or practice from the Styrling Strider Art of Winning canon of games and practices, so that you can improve momentum point conversion rate? What would you do?
I would say one of the games that's premier for this is called Deuces Are Wild. And basically, you're going to play either a short set or a full set, 4 to 6 games. But to win a game, all you need to do is win 2 points in a row. Now, the player's not going to serve forever. You're going to get 4 points total to serve, or maximum, right? So let's say I'm serving first. I can serve 4 points. If one of us wins 2 points in a row, we get the game and the serve switches. In Deuces Are Wild, after the 4 points are played, if no one wins 2 points in a row, it's a wash. Nobody scores a game and the serve switches. It's a pretty challenging game. Another game would be Push. It's the same game, except after the 4 points, the momentum score carries over. For instance, after 4 points, if nobody wins 2 in a row, it's 0-0. Let's say on the 4th point, you have the advantage 0-1, but then I win the point. So I stop you from the momentum point. We switch the serve, and I go into the next game up 1-0. So if I win the first point of the second game against your serve, I win.
Yeah, it's a brutal one, that
one. Yeah,
one.
it's very brutal. So that game, all these games are at the Art of Winning membership in the momentum scoring portal. I believe that's where they are located. Another game is Tsunami, and that is an incredible game as well. So check out those games at the Art of Winning.
Yeah. They're all on video, aren't they?
Yep, they're on video. They're pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah. I must add the games, this is what I do now. I run these games in my lessons. They're the first thing I do. When we go on the court, we're going to play Deuces Are Wild. And do you know what my players say? They say nothing, because they completely understand exactly how that is. Because when they play these games, when they go and play their matches, what are you doing? You're doing what you need to do to win, create more of these opportunities.
Players and even coaches ask me, what's the big deal about this game? Well, first of all, you realize what a big deal it is to win 2 points in a row. If you're going to be awarded one game for just winning 2 points in a row, that means those 2 points, each point is very valuable. There's no time to check out with your brain, right? With your mindset. You can't just check in, check out in this game, or you're going to be wiped off the court 4-0 really quickly. So even though it seems very simplistic and elementary, once you start playing it, you start to realize how much you're checking out, how much you're dwelling on the last point, whether you won or lost it. And especially so with junior players, they dwell on losing points a lot more than winning points. So anyway, moving on.
That's really interesting, and I can guarantee that at least that part of it works. So try it. So let's look at the second shot then, the other trend, the second trend we're going to look at today, which is when the second shot is a forehand, okay? And obviously we're going to look about what happens when it's a backhand as well. So the second shot, by the second shot, we're referring directly to the S1, the shot the serving player plays after the serve, the S1, and the R1, which is the shot the returner plays directly after the return. So Styrling, my first question then, could you explain the trends that you have seen when the R1, that's the shot after the return, is a forehand?
The R1 forehand is critical, absolutely vital to being successful. Making an R1 forehand is critical to being able to break serve of your opponent. This means you've got to be thinking about where you're playing your return to set yourself up for the R1 forehand.
Okay. Can you then explain the trends that you've seen when the R1's a backhand?
If you're playing a backhand on the R1, it's going to be very difficult to break serve in the match. Okay, the data is showing and it's trending that the R1 backhand is riddled with errors. And it's typically due to a very strong S1 forehand by your opponent. So that is the trends we're finding with the R1 forehand and the R1 backhand.
Okay. And then can you explain the trend that you've seen when the S1, the shot after the serving player's shot after his serve is a I think it's like asking Santa about Christmas presents, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, the S1 forehand.
That's the forehand.
Yeah, the S1 forehand is a big deal. It is getting a lot of attention now, and it has been for the past couple of years. Excuse me. It has been for the past couple of years because it's becoming actually a big focus for players around the globe. And even the top pros, this is what we're hearing through the grapevine here, they are obsessed with the S1 forehand. Nadal, Federer, Djokovic, even on the girls' side, Serena, Halep, all of them. That's all they talk about among themselves when it comes to setting up a point and winning, right? It's what they're spending a lot of their practice time, and especially when they're going into a match, all their warm-up time, right? But even in practice, they're trying to refine their serves in certain spots of the court so they can get an S1 forehand. And we're starting to see our practices spending more time designing and rehearsing the S1 forehand.
And isn't it brilliant? I mean, now we're actually talking properly about, because everyone talks about forehand and backhand generically, the forehand. Oh, the problem in the match was my forehand. However, I shall not dwell upon this because we've looked at that in great detail elsewhere. But it's a very important discussion to have, particularly for coaches. Oh, you're back on, Styrling. Good. Okay. So what happens when the S1's a backhand?
This is another shot that is actually getting a lot of attention on the practice court, right? You've got to shore up your backhand, okay? You've got to make it solid. If your forehand is like a sword and your backhand is like a shield, yes, your shield can be offensive sometimes, which is your backhand, but it's mostly for playing neutralizing shots or even defending, right? You got to remember, your opponent is going after your backhand. So they are bringing probably a strong forehand. So you're either trying to neutralize with your backhand at that point or defending. But it's got to be a solid shot. That's why it's getting a lot of attention on the R1, on the S1, the first shot after the serve. And you just know this, that your best shield can never be as offensive as your sword, your forehand. So if you're serving, your best offense is your forehand, right? Your defense or your neutralizing is going to be on your backhand side.
Yeah.
It's not to say that you're going to have to defend or neutralize a forehand S1, but typically you're looking to attack, you're looking to force errors with your forehand S1.
Yeah, I think, thanks. That is a really important point. So what art of winning games and practices do you recommend to help players set up forehands on the second shot?
Well, I do this even working with beginner players, right? All the way through into I work into competitive juniors, college players, and even players that are looking to break in on the tour, is that we start with what I call challenges. And that means the players trying to win a game. So I'm serving and they're looking, they're serving, and then they're looking for forehands. So we do challenges, different scenarios. All of those are in the portals. First strike point games are excellent to begin looking for forehands and scoring extra points. Siri is the best game that we've developed. Siri is S1R1, and if you are you play to 7, if you hit a forehand as your S1 or R1, you get a Siri point, and then you're playing the point out and you get the winning point as well. So you can score up to 2 points there. So you're trying to deny your opponent forehands on the S1, R1 while you're trying to score S1, R1 forehands. So there's all these games are at the Art of Winning membership portals.
Yeah, and that's the interesting feature about Siri, because it really helps your competitive consciousness, because there's always I think there's a trade-off when you're playing that game, and therefore in a match itself, there's a trade-off between making your opponent hit a backhand on their S1.
Well, you got to remember
and so allowing yourself to hit a forehand on the S1. And it's a very interesting question. What's more important, to try and prevent your opponent hitting a forehand on the S1, or trying to play it so that you're not hitting you're hitting a forehand on the S1?
Yeah. As you rehearse games like Siri, when you go into a match in tournament play, you've already sort of primed your brain to look for forehands because you've rehearsed these games. And now when you go in, it almost becomes automatic to start looking for forehands. And so that's the power of these games and these challenges.
Yeah. Okay. So you're working at the moment on what we temporarily at least call point probabilities at the moment. And that's really exciting. I mean, that is a hell of an innovation, particularly coming on the back of what you've done so far. How has understanding trends in data helped you in developing this new innovation of point probabilities?
So point probabilities are really developed out of the raw collection of data. And then I'm looking for patterns either across the board with multiple players as well as individual players. And we are seeing that the first strike combinations, if the first strike combinations are mapped out. Yeah. So I get data in, right, from coaches, or I do it, or we have multiple sources here. We're seeing if the first strike combinations are mapped out, there seems to be a strong link between S1 and R1 forehands and the successful execution of winning more points in the match. So as players determine their decision before playing the next point based on the probability of winning or losing the point, we are seeing players break through and defy the probability. In other words, players are increasing their chances of winning the next point, even when the probability of winning that point is against them. Yep. And so this comes where you're looking across and you're seeing these, how many times if they were down 0-1, did they win the next point? Or how many times if they were up 2-0, did they convert that momentum point into a conversion point? And so looking through massive amounts of data, I see these trends. And so I'm starting to develop what I call point probability, your chances of winning the next point. And not only am I looking at it, we're actually going out on the practice court and we're doing this with players, right? We're putting them in point. We're looking at everything we do in practice is scored, right? And it's recorded. And then we go back and look at it, and then we share with the player, look, you're down 2-0 here. The probability of you winning this point is around 25%. So make scoring a conversion. And so we're helping them tweak their decision making based on that probability, and they're actually leveling out or increasing their chances of winning the next point because they're not making decisions based on emotion anymore or solely emotion. They're making their decision based on real data, their data, in fact. And it's quite interesting. I mean, there's not a lot of anomalies out there. There really isn't. I mean, like I've said in talks before this, I've been doing this almost 10 years, and the trends hold pretty stable across the board, across levels, right? Different playing levels. But it's fascinating because we're linking the psychological part of interpreting how you're going to play the point and negotiating the pressure that you're putting on yourself, or it's coming from the outside, or what your opponent's doing to you, or what the score is. And then sort of merging those two concepts of making decisions based on probability. So it's quite fascinating. So we're still plugging along on that one.
But I'd say knowledge is power as a player. So if you know the probability of the forthcoming point and your chance of winning it at 25%, you know that. Look, it's not great news, but by dint of you knowing it, I think, and this is one for you, Styrling. By dint of you knowing it, you've raised the probability of winning that point just by knowing that.
Yeah, it goes back to the winning principle. If you don't know what the problem is, you don't know how to fix it or adjust it, right?
Yeah.
And so the biggest thing is we make decisions, or players typically make decisions based strongly on their emotions, how they feel about the match is going, or how they feel like they're hitting the ball, or whatever.
And what they should be doing.
Right. Instead of, okay, here's the momentum score. My chances of winning 3 in a row are less than that player just winning 1 and breaking my momentum. And we know that because of the game score, 15, 30, 40, that score is already projecting a false narrative in the game.
Yeah.
When you're up 30 love, you're not up 30 points to 0, but your brain is interpreting, I'm up big. 1 point away from 40 love. I'm going to win this game easy. And that's the problem, is your perspective of where you are in the game, being up big. It's not a reality. You're only up 2 points in a row at 30 love, and your chances of going up 40 love, about 25%. Now you can make better decisions going into that third point. You can place the serve in a place that's better that's against that opponent, or feels comfortable for you. And these are the things how we're working out decisions here. And then we do it, and then we see what happens. And then we see how the player interprets what happened, right? And it was really interesting because the emotional response going into that third point, say you're up 30 love, 2-0 in the momentum score. The player losing the next point, if they know their probability is low and they lose the next point, but they played a really good pattern, they did what they felt they needed to do, but they still lose the point, they don't have as much emotions because they understand what just flipped there. Now they're actually back in the driver's seat because they're down in the momentum score 0-1. So now the next point to go up 40-15, they actually moved to 60% chance. So they went from 25% chance at 30 love to go up 40 love to go up 40-15.
Yeah.
Right. And so these are the point probabilities that we're playing with and we're arranging. And it's really interesting. I mean, we're taking practice data, we're putting it beside match play data of the players. And you know what's interesting, Dan?
Go on then.
It's pretty much the same.
Same. Yeah.
It's pretty much the same because, we've always had this discussion of, we've got to make our practices pressure filled. Well, we do. But we've got to be smart about it, right? We've got to relate it to, okay, we've got to ask questions to our player. How did you feel in that match? How do you feel right now? Does it feel about the same? And here's the interesting part. The games that we are developing are mimicking or producing in a mimic way the kinds of pressure that the players feel in the match. And that's why we created the games, because they are producing and I don't want to say in an artificial way, because it's actually a real way. I mean, these players are actually feeling in a real way the kinds of pressure that they're feeling when they feel in a match, right? It's pretty darn close, you know. I mean, it is really close. It's hard to mimic exactly that, because it's a different, you know, when you're at a tournament, it's a different city, it's a different environment, obviously. But those feelings of anxiety and nervousness are the same, right? The scenery around us may change, but the feelings we experience are the same, right? They're the same chemicals in your brain releasing in Cary as in the UK, right? So that's what we're finding out.
Yeah, and it's I think it's important to have a structured look at those trends and tendencies in match data, because look, guys, you are much closer to doing this than you might assume right now. And look, it's by getting out there and doing it and looking at the match in this way that you improve. You improve dramatically, but it needs to be done. It can't just be done theoretically, or you wait for someone else to do it. Maybe bringing a match data specialist. Okay, you need to do it, and if you do, it's going to make it a very, very different experience for you and your players. Well, am I right, Styrling?
Absolutely. So, if you want more information about the games and the challenges, you can go to artofwinningtennis.com, sign up for a 7-day trial membership, and then hopefully you'll stay with us. I can't underestimate how much work we've put into this and how reasonable it is to access it. Okay, so go over to artofwinningtennis.com. If you're not a part of the Facebook group, Art of Winning Community, go ahead and ask for the invite. We'll invite you. If you've posted questions, we're going to get to them as soon as we can. And if you want any more information, you can just contact Dan and I straightforward, and we'll talk with you. So, hope you guys have a good day today. Dan, I believe, are we going to be doing another talk tomorrow?
Yes.
What is our topic for tomorrow?
Okay. So the topic for tomorrow is precisely that. Right. What do I do now? How am I going to apply this? And how quickly can I do it? I was actually going to have a look at the data analytics section that we've got on the website, because it's what it's all about. It's application. So where do I start is the question we're going to answer tomorrow.
Okay, great. Let me before we leave, I want to just give a shout out to all those that have watched us and asked questions. Dan and I are going to get back to your questions, and maybe we'll even talk about some of those answers in the next broadcast tomorrow.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot for joining us, and have a wonderful day.